This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. This week we're going to work on sealing all the bow compartments so that we can get started on the decks.
And that's important to us because our goal is to get this entire boat sealed up within the next 3 weeks. And so we have to have those bow compartments in and eventually we'll get to the windows and lowering the top down, all that good stuff. So this week we just want to get those bow compartments completed and start getting those decks glued in.
Yep, but we're also this week going to talk about the new electric outboard we found.
Right, and that solved a big problem that we've had for a while, and we want to show you exactly what we found and how great it is. So stay tuned for that at the end of the video, but for right now, let's get to work. It's Monday in a new week, and this week our focus is the bow of the boat. And there's just a lot of issues with our chamfer panels. If you'll notice, for example, we had to kerf this here because we have to pull this in so that it lines up straight with the front here. And then up here, this particular 45 panel is supposed to be warped over like that, but it does not want to come down. So you can see we've got some massive clamps in here pulling it down because it really wants to be straight and level up at the top. So it's a twist to it. But we've got it down, and so we're going to glue it in and tab it and see if we can get that to start holding. Because we want to get this whole messy portion of the bow working together on there so that we can get to the decks, because we need all the decks on so that we can get to the windows, and we really want to get to the windows so we can lower the roof down. So all week, various little jobs to get this whole, both bows working, and it's going to be a lot of work, but we'll do it. We're endlessly cutting fuel ply, and our problem is that they really are only selling us rolls in these full-size rolls. And what we're trying to find is some rows that are maybe 9 inches wide, so that all we have to do is measure out the length and not have to keep cutting both directions. And I did find some in New Zealand, which is, they won't sell to me in the US, but so far in the US I haven't found any. So if anybody knows of any places that sell rolls of around 9 inch, I'll take 10 or whatever, but something around 9 inches. I don't care how long, just the width has to be 9 inches. If you know a place, put it in the comments. Thanks. It's a nice cool morning, so we're going to be using some West System for our next thing here. Good old West System. We like that epoxy a lot. It's really good for things like putting in our coves, and also when we get to lamination, it's a smoother surface than the other epoxy that we have used. So we prefer our West System when we can use it, and it's a nice cool day, so it's a good time to use it. And what we're doing here is, this is a storage compartment out on deck here. There's a big hatch up here, and right now you can see where down here, I hope you can see with enough light, but there's the angled portion of the chamfer panel where we kerfed it to make the bends in there. And so we've been sealing that up, and now we're going to tab around it, and then we're going to laminate over the top of it with a sheet of fiberglass. And then we're going to put a flat piece on top of that to make this whole floor flat, because we're going to want that to be able to drain from this compartment here through to the center one. And then in the center one down here, there'll be a hole through to the chain locker where our windlass is. And so all the water from these three will go into the chain locker drain, and that has that one drain for all 4 lockers that will go down through the bridge deck and drain out. Now most of the time these 3 lockers aren't going to get water in them. They have hatches that are seals. So they're not going to take much water mostly, but the chain locker is, because the chain itself comes in wet and then it has to drain. So it's going to have the drain in there. But this is a boat and we're out in the ocean, and you never know if water can get into one of these big hatches here. It could happen. If we're just taking a lot of water over the top and there's a slight leak, we have a hatch open, and when some big splash of water comes, it's just, who knows reasons why water can get in there, but you're out in the ocean, water's going to get everywhere eventually. So we do want these to drain into the one hole in the chain locker, so that we don't have to have a bunch of holes through the bridge deck, just the one. And so these 3 big lockers drain into the chain locker. The chain locker has its drain that goes down out of the bridge deck. So Brian's over there cutting our glass and peel ply right now, and we're going to get to work sealing this up. Fruits of our labor from last week is we have the walkway in here out to the sugar scoop now. So this is where the stairway is going to be that goes up onto the side deck, which runs right down there, as you can see. And so we'll be building the stairs in right here, and of course the step down into our sugar scoop area. And this is where the gate's going to be coming across and hides back in here. So that's a start. We can now walk out here, and that's great. We haven't done that other side over there yet. We just have the temporary one in. We're going to leave the temporary one for a while. But there was no way for us to get out here and do work without this sole in, so we did that. Now we haven't glassed this one in yet, but it's ready to go. The only reason we haven't is it's just non-critical right now because we need to get this bow of the boat all done and sealed up so that we can get the windows in and get the roof down. So that's the priority. This isn't really a big priority right now. We just wanted the floor here so we could get out here when we need to. And now we have it. So we get back to the bow now. Work on the bow continues. So what we're doing now is we're tabbing all this stuff in. We couldn't tab it earlier because the chamfer panel was put up, and then we had to fill in all of the kerfs. And so that's all been filled in now, so we can go ahead and start tabbing all of this in now. It's time to get the epoxy coves on here, and then we'll tab. We already tabbed that side, but we've got a tab over here. Takes a lot right along here because of the way the board is angled in. I had to fill underneath that part for the slope. We did it in 2 stages. We already had some in there so that we didn't get too much epoxy all at once because it'll heat up too much. Okay. We have completed yet another thing. Now we'll do lunch, and then we'll go forward to this bulkhead right here and do the other side over there. This, like I said, this whole chamfer panel business and bow of the boat is a lot of little stuff to get right. So we're just chipping away at it. We're just getting there. All right, so I'm here with Jeff, and we're just taking a look at the actual hatch. We talked about last time the fact that the original plans had it higher up, but that's obviously, it would be in the way of this part up here. And so the hatch needs to go here, and this is the actual Goyo hatch that we're putting in. And so this gives us an idea of where we're going to have to cut this in. And the wing actually ends about where my hand is here. So we're not actually going to have to cut that wing at all. It's going to fit just fine right there. And the water line's clear down here. So this is quite a bit ways off of the water line. So that should work out just fine. And again, the stairway will be on top of here. There's going to be two steps that will remove if you ever needed to get to this. Now this is upside down right now because we just didn't want to lay it here. But this is the actual way it'll be in here is this direction on there. So that's the hatch. This is the emergency. You pull that off, pull the two hatches down, we're good. And most of the time we'll have that on so that these don't move. And we're not going to cut this hole very soon. No real reason to cut the hole yet until we're ready to mount the hatch. And we don't want to mount these hatches until long after we've done fairing and sanding the boat, because it's going to get very dusty in here while we're doing that. So we don't want all these nice beautiful hatches in here right now. But we did want to see the size of this and just where it ran into here. So again, the end of the wing is I can just feel the edge right there underneath the carbon fiber here. It's about there. And so this hatch starts down a little bit below that. So it's not going to impact that wing at all. That's great. All right. This week we've been sealing up all of these little compartments up here. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of them that we had to do here. So they're all tabbed in now and also laminated in. So these are all ready to be sealed up. And that was the goal of the week, because what we want to do is start putting these decks down. So right now, for about the 4th time, we're dry fitting these decks in to see where they go, and then we'll make some marks, and we're going to start gluing down the decks up here. And that was the goal of the week, and it's Saturday and we're getting to it. All right, we're going to start gluing in these panels. So the first one we're going to put in is over there, and we're just going to sand up the areas where we're going to glue right now. So we've made marks where the bulkheads go. We're sanding these wide enough so that we don't have to resand again when we go to tab these from the underside later. Today we're just going to glue them though. And we don't have to do anything else. This is just a glue down. So it's 500 and we put it down. Okay. We're ready to glue in this first piece here. And then we're going to glue this one in next, because it'll butt up to this one. And then we'll glue in the piece over there, which will butt up against the side of both of these two. And we're going to go to the other side of the boat and do the same exact thing before we put in the two center pieces in there. Now we dry fitted all of it, so we know it all goes in on there. So we're good to go there. And this is exciting stuff, because I've been wanting to get these decks glued in for a while now, because we need all these decks in so that we can get this windows in and the roof down. And that's really important to us for getting to the rainy season, which it doesn't look like a rainy season right now. It's gorgeous today. If every day was like today, it would be wonderful. We're going to be in the maybe 79 degrees Fahrenheit at the hottest, sunny and clear. So beautiful day in Southern California. But they're not all like that. Like everywhere, you get a little bit of bad weather occasionally, and so we want to get this boat sealed up. And my goal was to get this done, sealed up by the end of November. We're around the first week of November right now, so we've got 3 weeks to button this up. So if we get these decks on, I'm also probably going to go inside the boat at that point and put the sole into the hull, temporary. Just going to set it down in there so that we can start constructing temporary supports for the deck along the side here. And once we have that support in, then the windows go in next. So it's not long before those windows are going in. I would say next week we'll put the windows in, and the following week we'll probably glue the roof down onto it all. That's great, because that's 2 weeks, and we've got a lot of what I wanted to get buttoned up done by the end of November. And that gives us another week after that before the end of November. And what we're going to try to do with that week is start putting the helm in, because the helm's a big old hole in the roof over there, and I need to get the helm platform and the winch handling area, which I'll show you what I'm talking about here in an image, and that ties into the roof and to the bulkhead, so that'll seal that all up. And once that's all done, then I still have a hole above the helm area, but that's okay, because the very next thing we do after that is put the hard top for the helm up there, and that will cover that hole so that we don't get rain coming down through there into the boat. So I doubt we'll get everything I just said right there done by the end of November. That's more than a week's worth of work to get that helm station built up, and the line handling area glassed in and all that stuff. At least a couple weeks for that. So that'll put us in the first week of December, but most of the boat will be sealed up at that point, and that'll really help when it comes to the rest of this winter. Now, we are in a El Nino condition, which means less rain for Southern California this year. Well, thank heavens, because last year we had to go through the worst recorded amount of rainfall in Southern California history. So we were just constantly getting a downpour of rain on us. So it's about time that we get the opposite and get a little drier winter for building my boat. I really enjoy having been poured on abnormally, and then follow that by one of the hotter summers. So last year, it just, what's the good word for it? As far as weather goes, it just sucked to be building a boat outdoors. But with El Nino coming, we're looking at least having a decent winter for building outdoors, and the boat's going to be all sealed up. Now, we've got it uncovered right now because we're doing work out here, but we've been keeping this all covered with tarps to keep it out of the sun, but that's a real pain. And since our tunnel tent wasn't allowed by the city, we've had to do that. And so the next thing I want to do after everything I've said right there is I want to finish the roof top. That means we have to laminate it some, we have to fair it, and we have to paint it. But once we get the paint on there, that's going to UV protect that top from here on out. And so we wouldn't have to have tarps up there anymore. So would be the next goal after that. Now, there's a lot of work that we have to do up on the bow of this boat later. But I took a look at another one of the 1520s that's being built in Australia. And they pretty much cut off the whole, probably this far back of the bow, and just custom did that, because it's a real trouble area with so many of these boards coming in and having to twist into place and such. So they just created a big foam piece out of there and glassed that whole thing in themselves on there. I'm not sure we're going to go that far, but we will cut back probably some and have to do some custom work out there. But for now, I'm not going to really worry about it. We're just going to get these all placed where they need to go, and whatever they happens up there, it doesn't matter, because we're going to cut some of that off and custom do it anyway. So, that's not a big problem. So we just mostly don't want to have too many big gaps here. Now, you see a gap here, but that's because there's a 45-degree bend right there, and so the bottom of the boards are, touching, and the tops are apart. So that we're just going to fill this area with epoxy all the way back. So that's not, and then of course tab over the top of all that. All these seams are going to get tabbed, glued, and then later tabbed on the top and the bottom, and then eventually faired on here. And we probably won't fair these decks up here too soon. The reason for that is that there's a lot of work to do on these decks. We have a hatch that we have to cut in. It's about right there. So we have to cut a hatch into there to access that sail locker. And then we have 3 hatches that have to be cut back over there. And then right here, I think, we have a hatch for this cabin that goes right here. So there's all kinds of hatches that have to be cut and built in. Same thing on the other side. So we really want to get all that done before we do any fairing up here. So we'll just keep these covered. They'll be all solid deck, so if we just drape these with our tarps, and the rain will just run right off because this will all be sealed up anyway. And we probably won't get to those hatches until next summer, but after it's stopped raining at all, so that we have plenty of time to open it up without worrying about rain going through. That's the plan on that. Today we just want these decks sealed up, and we probably, once this is sealed up and we've done the windows and the top for the rest of the winter, we're going to spend our time inside the boat doing the cabins and the cupboards and galley and seating and all that kind of stuff. Look, it's Brian. I don't have any gloves.
You got gloves.
Okay, then take this back. Unfortunately, where those are, I can't reach. Thank you. Big glove delivery people. How far over does it go? Is that the line right there?
Yes.
And we're going to be fast here. So we're going to need weights. Are there bricks up here? Sometimes we had them up here, but I don't see any. So, deck 3 is in on the port and starboard over here. Jeff's down the side right now. He's been cleaning up the bottom side of that. And we've got some weights up here because they need slight warping and there's no real easy way to clamp them.
As promised, we're going to talk a little bit about our new electric outboard. As you recall, we already have purchased an electric outboard, but we had a lot of trouble with that.
It wouldn't plane our tender, and that's kind of critical because we'd be going putt, 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 putt everywhere we go. And so that was a problem. And it's too bad because we really had a lot of plans for having an electric outboard versus a gas outboard. We just didn't want to carry flammable liquids on board when we don't have to. We already got rid of propane and we wanted to get rid of gas. And so that's just 2 more possible fires on a boat, so we wanted to have those off the boat. Now obviously electrical can still have a fire, but we have that no matter what anyway, so we could get rid of the other 2. That's a little safer. The other thing is that gas is sometimes actually hard to procure in some of the more remote places, and therefore we would have to carry a secondary tank for gas on board that we could fill our tender. Otherwise we'd be limited to just whatever that one little gas can in the tender could go for range, and so that wouldn't be very good either. Now we're having to carry more weight and more complexity and all that good stuff. Where with electric, of course, we have already got 5 kilowatts of solar panels. We can already regenerate while sailing if we feel like it. So we have methods of gaining that power from wind or sun. And we can refill batteries from that pretty much endlessly as long as there's sun. We can even generate power from using our diesel fuel because it can act as a generator and fill the batteries, and that can also charge up an electric battery system for the tender. So those are all great things. Now there's trade-offs, of course, and we went over that in all this video you'll see up here. We were willing to accept those trade-offs for multiple excursions versus a longer range single excursion. That was basically the main one. So for months and months now, we've been considering going to a gas outboard because there was no electric outboard out there that could do everything we wanted.
So what are those things? Well, number one, we want 48 volts because anything higher than 48 volts is dangerous to humans, and we don't want to be out there in the ocean splash with seawater splashing on us and it become a danger.
Right, so that was kind of critical to us, and a lot of the electric outboards out there are higher than 48 volts. And then there is just the size and weight of the outboard itself. We have a range that we wanted to be in, which is around 20 to 25 horsepower, or in terms of electric motor, that'd be somewhere around 18 kilowatts. So we needed an 18 kilowatt electric motor that ran on 48 volts. And for number three, the batteries have to be LiFePO 4 batteries because they're not willing to carry more explosive or thermal runaway type batteries chemistries, and so like NMC. And so we didn't want those kinds of batteries in our boat as well. So they had to be LiFePO 4. And so we kind of given up. And there wasn't any outboard out there that did all of those things. And fortunately, we didn't buy that gas outboard, and we just waited to see, since we don't need it yet, to see if some new technology will come along, maybe a smaller diesel outboard, but there just aren't any in that small range. They're very expensive and very heavy and large, and we didn't want that. But nothing came out that was just small enough and light enough for us to be a diesel. But that would have been fine because we carry diesel fuel on board already anyway, but there just wasn't one. But lo and behold, a company that we had looked at earlier, which is ZeroJet, and if you haven't seen them before, you may have seen a Winds video because they have the ZeroJet outboard in their OC tender. And it's not an outboard, it's like jet engine built into their tender. But for us, that really wasn't a possibility because we want to be able to do surf entries, and we can't take a tender in that has electric batteries and stuff that if you flipped over the tender, that stuff would all get ruined and such by being flipped over in salt water. Also, extremely heavy because the tender would weigh over 500 pounds with all that batteries and motor in there, and if you flip that over in the surf, that would be very bad. So what we wanted to be able to do is take whatever motor we have on the outboard, on the tender, off onto the boat and put a small waterproof electric motor on to go in through surf. It won't go very fast, but it will go in, and if it flips over, the whole tender only weighs 230 pounds or so, and you can flip it right back over, walk it up the beach. If it does get flipped over, it won't hurt it. And so we already have that outboard. I've showed you that before. Also up in this video, that's the E-Propulsion outboard. But to use that, we have to be able to take the other one out, and the ZeroJet jet was permanently mounted into the boat, so it can't be taken out. But ZeroJet, the company, has now come up with an outboard, this one. And we are so excited about this because it ticks off everything we want. It only weighs 85 pounds. I'm not including the batteries, but the motor itself only weighs 85 pounds. Therefore, when I want to lift it off onto the boat, it's not exceedingly heavy. That's actually 35 pounds or so, or even close to 40 pounds lighter than the gas outboard would have been that we would have bought for like 25 horsepower. It's 18 kilowatts, which is right in that range that we want, equivalent to around 25 horsepower, certainly 20 to 25. It runs on 48 volts, so it's human-safe voltage. The batteries are LiFePO 4, so we wanted as well. So basically, it's everything we wanted, but
will it plane our boat? Because everything up to there was pretty much the same as the other electric outboard we bought. So here's a picture of a rib, which is what we have.
So here's a link to a YouTube video showing the ZeroJet planing a rib like ours. And then also here's another video of the ZeroJet in a Tug-of-War comparison with a 20 horsepower gas engine.
So this is and they claim this in their advertisement, the lightest, for its weight, most powerful electric outboard available in the world. And it is just what we need. And better yet, we got in on a special early bird deal that knocked off a lot of money from the cost of purchasing it. So that's a good deal for us as well. The only downside for us is that you have to use their proprietary battery with it. But the deal we got comes with their battery, so that's fine. And it's a good LiFePro4 battery, all waterproof and good, so that'll work for the tender very well. So we're very excited about ZeroJet's new outboard, and it now puts us back on track to all of the original goals that we had for our tender dinghy combination. All electric, just one, the powerful heavy version for when we go long distances and speed, and the light waterproof version when we want to go in through surf. So yay for ZeroJet and this new outboard, and we're just so happy that they came up with this in time. Now this is so new that we're the 18th person to purchase one, and they won't even be out till about May of 2025. So that's the soonest we'll have it. But once we get that, we'll do some test videos for you of it actually on our tender and out and about.
We fiberglassed and tabbed all the bow compartments and got deck 3.
And that's complete on both the starboard and the port side now. So made good progress this week and got those decks started. And next week we're going to move on to finishing up those decks up there, getting them glued in, and then we'll actually move down into the hulls and start putting in the soles and the temporary walls, which are going to be actually the real walls. We're just not going to glue them in yet. We just want them in there to brace the decks properly up top so that we can get the windows in. So that's all next week. And of course, we showed you our new electric outboard, which was very exciting.
Yes.
So thank you all for watching and spending time with us this week. And thanks to all of our patrons who support our project and keep this thing rolling.
Yes, thank you all so much. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
So next week, more decks and soles. See you then.
Bye.